Powell speaks. All hail our great inflation savior. Wait, can someone be your savior if he causes your woes in the first place? Markets are now clearly pricing in a slowdown in the face of extreme credit tightening. What does this mean? Are we not listening? Or do we just believe we're being lied to? Crypto is ripping today. Is this why? Twitter and Instagram making moves into Web3 and NFTs. Let's dig in. You know what this means. It's time for Money Talks. All right, gang, welcome to Money Talks. I'm your host, Bill Barhyte, founder and CEO at Abra. As always, we have a lot to talk about. Let's get into it. So as you may or may not be aware, we're now broadcasting on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Google Podcasts, I believe, and probably tens of thousands of viewers across all of those channels every week. If you happen to be here live on YouTube, smash that like button, click subscribe. And regardless of which podcast platform you may be listening on, please give us a 5-star rating. Share the show with your friends, at least one other person. Share the love. I want to get this thing up 10x in our viewership over the next few months. It's not going to happen without your help. All right. So So good morning to all of you wherever you are. Crazy week. We'll get into Chairman Powell and his commentary this week and its effect on the markets. Of course, everyone is still talking about Twitter and Elon. Looks like Twitter is going to be, massive layoffs today. I think they shut their entire staff out of their offices today. So nobody knows if they have a job or not. It seems crazy to me, but that's what they did. And the rumor is that they're looking at a Web3 and micro payment solution, in addition to starting to charge everyone $8 a month for that little blue check mark. I'm worried about the future of Twitter on the one hand. On the other hand, I'm watching his diatribe versus Senator Ignacio Cortez or Congresswoman Ignacio Cortez, and she seems to misunderstand the difference between a free speech platform, which Twitter is not, and a business, which Twitter is supposed to be. Anyway, I hope they figure it out. I hope they make it. I think crypto Twitter is actually really important for our space. It's where the debates mostly happen, for better or worse, sometimes better, sometimes worse, but it's all good. So I should also let you know that we have a new podcast episode with The Block. Frank Chaparro from The Block has a weekly or bi-weekly podcast, I think, I'm not sure, called The Scoop. And we recorded an episode a few weeks ago. Let me see if I can bring it up for you here now. And they released it this morning, which is pretty cool. So go have a listen. We talked about Abra forming a new bank. We talked about all things macro. As I recall, we even talked about New York accents and had a little bit of fun. And Frank and I are both from New York City, New Jersey. So always fun to talk to Frank. So give that a listen. Let me know what you think. A little bit lighter banter than usual when I go on The Scoop. Always fun time. All right, so check that out. We've got more exciting news for you today. We're going to get into what's going on with our trading upgrade at Abra. Many of you now have the new trading system for Abra. And so that's great. So hopefully we'll get another few thousand people a week or a day, actually, over the next couple of weeks, and then have everyone live. And I'll talk more about that in the Ask Abra Anything segment. Let's see. So also some news. So Instagram entering the NFT market. This is really exciting for us, given our timing and our foray into the NFT space, which is coming up. They're now supporting Ethereum, Polygon, Solana-based NFTs. Can't wait to connect my Abra wallet to Ethereum and start selling pictures of yours truly eating a slice of pizza. Seriously, though, how much do you think I'd get for that? We shall see. I don't know. Also, we've got November elections in the U.S. next week. I suspect that in terms of markets to be a big nothing burger, especially if, as predicted, the Republicans take the House. And that's generally good for markets because it leads to gridlock when we have a divided House and Senate, and a president in a different party. So, let me just turn this off here. So, I think the elections will be a nothing burger. But if we get a surprise and the Democrats keep the House, I would not be surprised if markets reacted negatively. Excuse me. All right. As I said, don't forget to smash that like button and give us a 5-star rating. All right. So I want to dig right into some charts and talk about what we're seeing in the markets. Also, we've got a new segment today called Charting a Course for Crypto, which I'll get into in a moment. So we were ripping higher this morning on Ethereum and Bitcoin. It looks like we had a capitulation move about an hour ago or about a half hour ago. We were up almost 10% on the 24-hour chart, and we're now up about 5.5%, which means we've come down significantly. So a lot of volatility today. Let me see if I can share this baby for you. So yeah, you can see here when this comes up in a minute, we had a big engulfing green candle on the last 4 hour, which topped out here at 1678 on Ethereum, and on Bitcoin it topped out. It topped out at 21.3, and we're below 21,000 again. So I think that was a short-term capitulation move to the upside, probably a bunch of liquidations on futures markets. I would suspect some folks that were maybe over-levered to the downside, expecting some more downside based upon the Fed's moves. And generally, if you're over-levered in crypto, you will get wrecked eventually. And I think that those folks got wrecked this morning, and we may have reverted to the mean in the last hour or so, which is why I think we're seeing, again, this combination short-term capitulation move to the upside, and also a little bit of incremental move back down to the downside. But all in all, we're still up 5.5% for the day. This is the 4-hour chart. You can see we bottomed last night, and we're up nicely, regardless of the short-term 1-hour capitulation that we're seeing now. So we'll get back to this in a little bit. I just wanted to share that with you since it's hot off the presses in real time. Tee up your questions for the Ask Abra Anything segment later, and we'll get to them. Anything you want to ask on trading, on C-Perks, on NFTs, anything coming up with Abra, and yeah. We will get to those in short order. What else we got here? So I want to talk about charting a course for crypto. All right, we're going to dive in to a few things going on. First, I want to talk about Powell and inflation, because I think even though we talk about it every week, it is super important for the current narrative in terms of understanding where everything is going. And let's see. So I mentioned last week, Nick Timaros, I think is how you say his name. He's a Wall Street Journal reporter. He's become known as the Fed whisperer. He seems to have not only the ear of the Fed, that he basically seems to have access and be able to get to Federal Reserve members. And he commented this morning, Boston Fed President Susan Collins suggests she is ready to slow the pace of Fed rate increases from here. 50 basis points used to be a large move, she says. She says it's too soon to say how high rates will need to go, but Nick comments that he does believe that they're implying now that a top on rates is near. I agree. I think that the market is starting to price that in, but it's clear that the damage that they've inflicted is done from an overreach perspective, but has not yet completely reared its head in terms of the macro. Unemployment. And another interesting comment here from Sven Henrich, who is from Northman Trader, who I follow as well. He said the unemployment rate at cyclical lows is always the most dangerous, as changes happen rapidly. And after the turn, it never, ever then peaks at a mere 4.4%, which is the Fed's current incredulous forecast. Why they put this nonsense out is beyond me. I tend to agree. I think that the unemployment rate is going to spike, and it's going to spike hard, and it will join us and rear its ugly head very, very soon. All right, so there's that. And then there's the ever lovely head of the European Central Bank. You got to hear this one. Let me see if I can find this here. Yeah. Okay, I love this one. So it's like we're living in an alternate reality. I don't know. I just don't get it. People just seem to either make stuff up or not live in the same reality. But anyway, here we go.
We do it because we are fighting. We do it because we are fighting inflation. Inflation has just pretty much come about from nowhere. We had been fighting deflation, so when prices were going down, trying to bring them to a steady level so that people knew about stability. And then as a result of very speedy recovery, plus the energy crisis, caused by Mr. Putin, who's decided in an unjustifiable way to invade another country. Yeah. Doesn't do that.
All right. So enough of that. It's crazy, right? I mean, it's just, it's almost like she's shocked that we have inflation, and it's yeah. Anyway, it's infuriating on the one hand, but on the other hand, we really shouldn't be, I guess, completely shocked given that we've seen this dance from all of them before. And of course, then there was Powell's speech itself after they raised rates by 75 bips. If we over tighten, we have the ability with our tools, which are powerful, as we showed during the pandemic, we can support economic activity strongly if that's necessary. I have no idea what that means, except he's saying we have no idea what to do now. And so we're going to keep raising rates until something absolutely breaks and it's staring us in the face. Other than that, I have no idea what that's supposed to mean. And we shall see in the coming weeks. So just like inflation went over the Fed's head, the rapidly changing labor dynamics will again make Powell's speech this week seem silly. In retrospect, especially the Fed's overly optimistic forecasts, he's too focused on lagging data and not focused enough on real-time impacts. The Fed is not supposed to be a trailing indicator, and it is effing up the markets. The bond market is completely out of whack. And yeah, okay. All right, so yeah, let's see. What else do we have this morning? 30-year fixed mortgage rate, 7.3%, up from 2.8% in July of last year. That is over 100%. And Powell is saying, I don't believe we've over tightened. All right, let me show you. You've got to see this chart. I mean, this is just pure insanity. So here you see the 30-year fixed mortgage rates. There we go. And right, trough down here in 21, below 3% again, 2.8-ish, and now above 7%. What this basically does for the average consumer, the cost of housing now goes through the roof, right? And so which means rents go up. So of course, the raising of rates is going to have an effect on housing costs, which is a key part of inflation. So they've created this vicious cycle for themselves that I don't know how they're going to get out of as it relates to housing, except to start easing up again, which I think is going to happen next spring. All right, which we've talked about many times. So I want to spend, and I'm seeing a bunch of questions here. Keep teeing them up, and we will. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of questions. That's great. So keep teeing them up. We'll get to them in the Ask Abra Anything section in a few minutes. So let's see. So much going on. All right. I want to play this last. I was going to play this now, but I want to wait on this one. I want to talk about, yeah, let's talk about crypto for a second. I'm seeing a lot of interesting commentary this week on, is crypto a thing? Is crypto going to have its moment, or has crypto already had its moments? Here is, we played him last week. He's kind of an interesting character. Oh, sorry. Let me, here we go. Oh, Twitter not cooperating. See if we can try again. Here we go.
Oddly enough, I don't know if it's odd or not, people will probably read into me saying that something, but it has it has been more stable than the stock market seems to have been, or at least equities recently, and whether you think that suggests something is different now.
So you know my view. Bitcoin and crypto was going through what tends to happen to every innovation, which is the initial period of overconsumption and overproduction. So you had a proliferation of crypto-related products. You had lots of people rushing in. You had Bitcoins going to almost 70. And then, like most innovation, that first cycle ends in tears. Then you get a reinforcement, if you like. And what we've seen, if you are a crypto fan, you should welcome the relative stability we've seen of the last.
Okay, enough. I strongly disagree with this, but I wanted you to hear it anyway, because I think it's really important to get lots of different takes. My take is that we're talking about the underpinnings of a new financial system. That financial system is being adopted in real time. It's not a single on or off switch. It takes 15, 20 years. And we don't focus exclusively on the price. The price matters, of course, because we're all invested, but that's not the key here. The key here is, how is Bitcoin, how is Ethereum changing the financial system for everyone, right? I think Bitcoin basically acts as a check on government's run amok, meaning government policy out of control, money printing, irresponsible budgeting, etc., runaway inflation, and not just in the US where I am, but more importantly in other countries where you don't have a reserve currency. I think long-term Bitcoin represents a viable check on government power. And that is a fantastic thing. And it scares a lot of people because they can't change it. They can't fix it. They can't stop it. Ethereum represents a new way of looking at banking, right? Banks are closed more than they're open. Stock markets are closed more than they're open. Ethereum represents an entirely new way of paving rails for a banking system that has no off switch, that is always open, always on, has no borders, enables all types of new transactions, both consumer and institutional facing, and it scares a lot of people. And I understand why it scares them, but it's not going away. Now, this all is interesting. It obviously is a decentralized message, and as you know, this summer we still live in a centralized world, even as it relates to crypto. And we saw some of our peers in this space who are no longer with us wither and die as a result of poor business practices. It looks like Alameda, which is the lending arm or market-making arm of Sam Bankman-Fried's empire, related sister company to FTX, has been in the news. Yeah, it's not been pretty, right? So it's Dylan Leclerc, who's an excellent Bitcoin analyst, commented yesterday, whatever firm is lending Alameda USD with the collateral being FTT, exchange tokens, when Alameda owns a supermajority of supply and makes the market, is going to get totally wrecked. Who will serve as buy-side liquidity in the scenario where the collateral has to be liquidated? Now, this was a comment from a CoinDesk article that he basically opined on the day before that. Per CoinDesk, Alameda Research has 14.6 billion of assets against 8 billion of liabilities, but most are tied in completely illiquid altcoins, which means that they're probably overstating their assets significantly. And for those who are unaware, FTT is the token issued by FTX for discounts of exchange fees. And the total market cap of FTT is 3.3 plus billion, and the fully diluted market cap is almost 9 billion. You couldn't actually sell $1 million worth of that thing without pushing the market significantly lower. So we don't have insight into what the liabilities are denominated in, but if it's primarily USD, Alameda is in deep, deep trouble. And the asset side of their balance sheet is entirely illiquid, it looks like. So we don't wish ill will on anyone right now, but especially when we're trying to get out of this contagion. But it's unclear how deep the troubles at Alameda and FTX may go. And Voyager's Chapter 11 bankruptcy from a few months ago, the filing shows that Alameda Research owes the firm $376 million. And that could spell trouble for existing Voyager creditors trying to get their money back. Anyway, it's not looking good there. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I hope it's not as bad as it looks, but often it's worse. So we'll see what happens, and we'll let you know in real time if we find out anything else on what's going on there. I read about the Justice Department's probe into Tether and its executives. It seems a little dubious to me. I don't know. I think we had, let's see. Yeah, it was on Bloomberg reported this week that there was a bank probe by the Justice Department, and federal prosecutors in Manhattan are taking over an investigation. But Tether, on the other hand, says its executives and the DOJ haven't interacted in over a year. So it's unclear where Bloomberg is getting this information. I assume they're not making it up, but on the other hand, Tether executives, are claiming ignorance to the probe so far. Last year, federal prosecutors in Washington warned top officials at Tether they could be charged for allegedly deceiving banks they used to move cash. But after months of legal wrangling, the case was transferred and no one had heard anything. But this was, again, according to Tether, over a year ago. So we have not heard anything from Tether about any of this. Tether has been relatively stable. And if anything changes, we will certainly let you know. And we obviously, in the meantime, continue to support Tether, which remains very popular with all of you. All right. So we'll stay on top of the Tether news. All right. I noticed an interesting chart this morning. 66% of Bitcoin supply has not moved in over a year, which I believe is an all-time high in terms of the percentage of last active. It has been, or I should say, percentage inactive. And that is really good news, because generally the more Bitcoin is taken out of the market, the relative ratio of supply demand points to a higher price. So people are hodling, and people are continuing to increase the size of their positions and put them into storage into places like Abra or cold storage, as the case may be. So that's super interesting. We'll continue to track that. Let's see. World Economic Forum publishes analysis discouraging Latin American countries from adopting Bitcoin. Yeah, one of you shared that with me a few minutes ago. Thanks for sharing. I saw that myself this morning. I wasn't planning to comment on it, but it of course is extremely self-serving, because obviously the WEF members are banks and governments who have the most to lose from a Bitcoin standard, from an Ethereum-based banking system. Obviously the banks and governments are going to be the big losers here. My take is, and I've told you this many times, I think the pendulum is already swinging the other way, and we're going to see governments shrink significantly over the next 15 years, 20 years. And we're also going to see the banking system move towards an open model, where traditional government regulation probably means less than it does today, but it'll still take a little time to get there. And in the meantime, governments matter, banks matter, and we have to basically have this debate, because they're confusing a lot of the public. And that's our goal, is to basically paint a picture of reality for them. Okay, chart of the day. This was an interesting one. I got to show you this so you can figure out how to share faster here. So our friend Raul Powell posted this. This is the ETH Bitcoin price ratio chart, and you can see that a wedge is forming. Right. And what this implies normally in a pennant like this is, if it's a continuation pattern and it breaks out of this pattern, we will see a massive spike in the price of Ethereum versus Bitcoin. Again, I'm not giving you investment advice. I'm not predicting I am predicting that's what's going to happen, but there's no guarantee that that's what's going to happen. But it does look like Bitcoin is clearly going to have downside versus Ethereum. And certainly in the coming weeks, we'll see, but it certainly looks like that pennant pattern is about to resolve itself. And it looks like, if I was a betting person, which I am, at least in the case of Ethereum, I would bet that it's going to resolve itself to the upside. And obviously, you should make your own informed decision, but that's what it looks like to me. All right, so we'll stop that. Super interesting there. Ripple Ripple is in the news again. Coinbase files an amicus brief in support of Ripple in their case against the SEC. The crypto exchange joins a trade group and other groups in arguing the SEC's case, which threatens the broader industry in the feeling of, or in the opinion of, Coinbase. So Coinbase petitioned a federal court for permission to file a friend of the court, or so-called amicus brief, in the ongoing lawsuit between the U.S. SEC and Ripple Labs, according to CoinDesk. That was from, I think, last week or earlier this week. And Coinbase joined the Blockchain Association, an industry lobbyist group called Spend the Bits, a crypto payments app that uses XRP, and a well-known lawyer named John Deaton, who I follow on Twitter. You should follow John if you're interested in this case, and hoping to shore up Ripple's case against the SEC, which sued Ripple at the end of 2020 on allegations it sold XRP as an unregistered security. Talked about this almost every couple of weeks for the last 6 months. You know my feelings on this. I think it's an uphill battle, and we'll see. I think it's an uphill battle for the SEC, but it's not a slam dunk for Ripple either. I can easily see this going either way, but I think Ripple has no choice but to limit their options around settlements, meaning anything that would refer to the sales of XRP as security offerings is probably a non-starter in terms of a settlement. And so that limits both sides' options in terms of playing this out until the end. All right. So before I get into my ask, well, actually, I want to talk about this. We've got employment cost index numbers that came out, I think, just after the show last week, and we didn't really get to talk about them. But the ECI for the compensation costs for civilian workers increased for the 3-month period ending September, right? And the numbers just came out, right? And these are super interesting because they show that overall significant increase in the cost of employment in the United States, and that has to peak. And so I think we're pretty much at peak ECI, and yeah. So I think we're going to see a declining trend in ECI in the coming months, and yeah, it is about 3 times as high as its average over the past kind of 12, 13, 14 years, and many people think this implies that the Federal Reserve can't risk reversing their aggressive policy yet. I actually think that it implies that the Federal Reserve has already done its job, and we're going to see the ECI come way, way, way down. All right. All right. So enough of that. What do we got next here? Oh my God, I got so many things open because there's so many things I wanted to talk to you about. We talked about Lagarde. We saw that video already. Let's see. We talked about ECI. We talked about PCE before. Let's talk a little bit about the goings on at Abra and answer some questions. All right. So we have started the deployment of the new version of Abra Trade. Tens of thousands of you, if not 100,000 plus, should already have the new version of Abra Trade. So you have market orders, you have better spreads, you've been upgraded there. And so we're accelerating the pace of people getting the new version of the trading system. And as I've told you, I'm looking at the calendar. Today's November 4th. All of you will have the new version of Abra Trade by the end of the month. And hopefully that's going well for you. We've seen no major issues, but we're going to keep doing this at a kind of a regular clip as opposed to all at once to make sure that we're not finding any issues as we go. But so far, it's been going extremely well. And as I said, the major benefits to all of you with Abra Trade, which I'm really excited about myself, are one, you're going to see lower spreads, meaning you're going to get a better rate if you buy Bitcoin, buy Ethereum, buy altcoins. You're going to see a price protection indicator that alerts you if you're trying to do a larger order and you're kind of getting, let's say, screwed on the price because of the order size. The app will actually warn you and may recommend that you try to do smaller orders, for example. And this also sets us up for limit orders, which is the next step. It also sets us up to be able to add additional coins on a slightly faster clip than what we've been able to do in the past. And for example, I know Solana is something that we've wanted to add. And so you'll see those coins come out at a slightly faster rate in the future, which is great, right? Just given the new custody solution that we have in place. Somebody was asking me about Doge. Actually, a few of you mentioned Doge. I should have mentioned that earlier. And bring up the price chart here. We did. I tend not to focus too much on Doge for obvious reasons, but I'd be remiss if I didn't show what happened with Doge this past week. Doge had a huge price spike. I think it was up over 100% at one point, or still maybe is. Let me bring this up here. Share screen. Yeah. So yeah, it's over 100%, right? So the trough at Doge in late October was around 6 cents. It's now trading at over 12 cents, and it peaked up here at close to 16 cents. And so it's consolidating just below the highs. Now, normally this consolidation pattern is extremely bullish. Let's see what it says here. It doesn't say strong buy. So it's hard to say because a lot of this is obviously Elon news driven. And in case you're not clear, Elon last year was a huge kind of shiller of Doge. He even went on Saturday Night Live. And for those of you who don't know SNL or Saturday Night Live, it's a famous comedy show here in the United States, which many famous comedians had their start on. And Elon was a guest host, which is crazy for a business executive to host a TV show like that. Anyway, he literally did skits talking about Doge, and the price of Doge was going wildly up and down literally during the show broadcast. And so many people in Twitter crypto Twitter were watching the show and tweeting in real time. But anyway, my point is that he has a very significant impact on the price of Doge because of his support for the currency, with a lot of speculation as to whether or not it would be used in Twitter. Now, that's actually a really interesting conversation, right? I think there is a case to be made that Elon would want Doge to be used in Twitter, right? Because he's talked about it many times. He doesn't really seem to care much what other people think. Bitcoin maxis are going to have very little effect. I don't see Elon Musk using Lightning inside of Twitter. I think he would think that it's too complicated for the average user. Personally, I'd rather see something like Lightning versus Doge. But again, like I said, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the bigger issue for Twitter is going to be how they're going to deal with international markets for payments at scale. So when they start rolling out that blue check mark, my guess is they're going to support the US, UK, Canada, Australia, English-speaking markets where they can use traditional payment methods like a credit card or PayPal or Apple Pay, Google Pay, stuff like that. I suspect that harder to reach markets that represent the vast majority of the planet may get more of a crypto look because it's harder to accept payments in those countries. I don't know. I'm not involved in any of the conversations, except, as I said, Elon has been a big proponent of Doge. And I think I had always speculated it was a little bit of a joke because it was an FU to the masses, but I really don't know at this point what drove his strong interest on Doge. I would love to see Twitter adopt a Web3 wallet model where you can basically change your Twitter avatar to be a PFT without having to just manually change the image, and then basically integrate your future Abra NFT wallet directly into Twitter, similar to what Instagram has done. Reddit did something similar last week where they rolled out new avatars using an NFT PFP model where you could actually make your own avatar. And they had millions of people do this incredibly quickly, which is super cool. So I think you're going to see more and more online services adopt that model. And that will allow kind of mashups between services where you can identify yourself anonymously by presenting your personal NFT from another site without actually disclosing your personal details. And I think that model is really one of the more interesting aspects of Web3 is the ability to preserve anonymity across the web when you may have registered your ID on another site. So we'll see how that evolves over time. Okay, so thanks for the question on Doge. Happy to keep talking about that, but I think I've beaten that horse for a while. Still getting lots of questions on Abra Boost versus Abra Earn. So we've explained this pretty much every week for the last 2 months, but let me just remind all of you. So we rolled out a new service called Abra Boost, which is an upgraded version of Abra Earn. This is in preparation for the rollout of Abra Bank. And the regulations are very clear here. And so this isn't a move by Abra to limit access because we want to limit access. This is simply us following government regulation, right? And the regulations require that if something is or looks like a securities offering, that either you go through a securities offerings process or you have an exemption, which purports to only support accredited investors in the United States. And so that's what we did initially for the rollout of Abra Boost. And then eventually the plan is once Abra Bank is live in the United States, because banks can pay interest, then that Abra Bank service will be able to take retail users, not just accredited investors. So that's the plan. It's not an announcement of a timeline. And so in the meantime, we're limited in that. And so we did not remove access. Somebody said, why did I remove access for your users for earning interest when other companies allow it? That's actually completely untrue. There is no one in the United States paying yield on crypto other than staking, right, for non-accredited investors. No one's doing it. Everyone has basically capitulated to this idea that for now, it's only accredited investors. Abra is unique in that we're forming Abra Bank, and I believe we'll be the only company in a position to pay interest to retail investors once the bank is fully live. That's part of why we did it. So again, it's not about us basically, trying to screw users. We're just simply trying to find the path of least resistance to democratize access to these services. Okay. All right. So I'm still seeing some questions on Boost. Yeah. So as I said, there will be an earn or boost option eventually for non-accredited investors once Abra Bank goes live. I have no timeline for that right now. I expect it will be in the first half of next year. It's not up to me. It's up to the lawyers and the banks, unfortunately, or excuse me, the lawyers and the regulators to come to an agreement on that. Okay. So let's see what else. Oh, here's an interesting question. Will Abra offer Bitcoin covered calls, cash secured puts on the platform? Rob, the answer is yes, not in the app for retail, but we will be offering that for certain investors who are qualified. Again, it's a legal issue. So if you contact Abra Sales, go to abra.com. If you're an individual, you can click on private banking or high net worth. If you're an institution, you can click on institution and you get in touch with the sales team and they will get you set up. We are actually rolling out support for those products this month through our over-the-counter trading desk. So you can definitely get access there. Let's see. What's the latest on Abra Trade? We already talked about that. Do I have a timing on turning CPerks trading back on? As I said, the plan was to get Abra Trade fully live first. Then the team will refocus its efforts on CPerks trading. We're also working on some stuff related to NFTs and CPerks, which we'll be talking about in after Thanksgiving holiday in the US. I'm really excited about that. JK asks, any way I can get Abra merch? Really like the sweater on Bill. Thank you for that. This was our swag bag for some friends of the company from last year and employees. I would love to open this up to you. Let me, Justin, if you're listening, let's see if we can get the shop updated with the swag and people can try to get some Abra sweatshirts. I don't know how to do that, but I know we had a shop linked at the bottom of abra.com. I don't know if it's up to date with the latest, but JK would love to do that. Thank you. So a reminder, you can basically contact support through the support button in the app. I'm seeing a reminder from the support team to ask all of you to use the support function. It's the easiest and fastest way to contact us. XRP Minion says Abra should file an amicus brief. So I think Coinbase is probably the better company to do that. They have a much bigger legal team than Abra. They're much more of a consumer-facing company than we are. We tend to be a little bit more high net worth, institutional focused as a company, although obviously we have millions of you on the consumer side as well. But I don't think in this case we would add much versus what Coinbase is doing, although I'm happy to throw my public support for what Coinbase is doing into the ring. I'm not speaking officially on behalf of Abra per se, but I do support Coinbase's move here. So thanks for that comment. And if they were to ask me, I would gladly tell them that I support this move. And let's see, eagerly awaiting more details on the Amex card and how C-Perks will affect rewards. Well, and this comes from Guitars, Cars, and Other Man Stuff. Well, I'll call you GC and O. GC and O, so it's coming, and it looks really cool. And yeah, we're gonna basically start we have a timeline now for starting the rollout of that, and I'm not going to give it away now, but it's definitely coming up. And so yep, team's working hard on that. Amex is working hard on it, and so is our bank partner. CTO Torre says, any update we need to know about gas? So nothing specific that I'm aware of versus what you can see yourself by just going into the Abra app. So if there's a specific question you want clarification on, let me know. Any updates on when we can expect Solana on Abra? JK, again, like I said before, the new trading system, once it's fully deployed at the end of the month, or hopefully maybe sooner, will allow us to add new coins at a much faster clip than before. And that includes the likes of Solana and other top tokens that we may not be supporting today. So I can assure you that in the future, you'll see new coins coming in at a slightly faster clip, or in some cases a much faster clip than what we were able to do before. Okay. Mark says, I wish the rollout was across the board for everyone. Won't be using Abra until upgraded. Mark, I hear you. It's just not the right way from a technology perspective to do things. We could have shut down Abra for a couple of days and just did the upgrade for everyone, but that's not the right way to do things. And so just bear with us and we'll get you there. And if you're really, really concerned about getting the upgrade, you can contact support and they might be in a position to get you in the upgrade group sooner. I'm not aware that they've done that for anyone, but you never know. It couldn't hurt to ask, but no promises. And XRP Minion says, what is the most up-to-date version? So I'm looking at my app right now, and I will tell you. If you open up your app, in the bottom right corner, it shows you the most up-to-date version, and app version 132.0.0 build 4901 on iOS. I have my Android phone right here, so I can tell you on Android as well. So I'll look that up in a minute. In the meantime, I'm gonna get on to the next question. Let's see your comments. Don't see Twits getting on board with crypto. Mark, as I said, I have no crystal ball. I think in the short term, if they're going to lay off half the staff, they're probably not going to do much of anything. And so crypto probably isn't a big concern if they're laying off half of their staff. But like I said, Elon has spoken publicly about Doge and crypto support in Twitter for a while. By the way, the up-to-date build for Android is build 1043. At least that's my install from yesterday. All right. Let's see. Crypto firms pushing AI again discriminates against the average investor. This is from Mark. Mark, I completely agree. The problem is you're insinuating that it's an arbitrary decision that we made, and it's not. These are the rules, and unfortunately, the lawyers are basically telling us that this is what the bank and securities regulators are forcing us to do. Several folks in the crypto space have been railing against the SEC on some of their accredited investor policies. If you don't like the policies, you should definitely write to your congressperson and tell them to come down on the SEC for this. But in the meantime, we continue to follow the rules. And to be clear, we don't discriminate, we follow the rules. So hopefully you can appreciate that. Accredited investor is definitely a high bar for anyone. I completely agree with you. Rita asks, what is an accredited investor? So let me explain. So several years ago, the Securities and Exchange Commission in the United States decided that certain products that were considered security offerings and may have required a firm to have a broker-dealer license to offer those products to consumers, and I'm giving you the layman's perspective here, I'm not a securities lawyer, would basically could be made available to certain investors if they met certain conditions. And those conditions were generally based upon either wealth or income, which means apparently if you make above a certain amount of money or you're worth over a certain amount of money, apparently you're better able to make informed investment decisions for yourself than somebody else. I think that's a bunch of nonsense, but that's the rule, okay? And I think since then, they've also added a third kind of stipulation to the definition of an accredited investor, which is somebody who has experience, provable experience with certain investment products. I may have that wrong. Again, I'm not a securities lawyer, so you can look up the accredited investor rules and definitions on the SEC website, I believe, and you get a much more accurate definition. Yeah. So Guitars Cars says you guys are mad at the wrong people, and unfortunately on this issue, I tend to agree. Okay, Joey Guy says, will dollars earning interest in Abra Bank be FDIC insured? So we have no plans to hold actual cash in Abra Bank. Everything would be stable coins and or crypto. And so you cannot earn FDIC, you cannot have an FDIC insured deposit that's crypto today. So the answer would be no. And again, for most people, that's a non-issue anyway, for reasons I've talked about in the past. Let's see. Will Abra Amex get access to awesome airport Amex lounges? I believe the answer is in some cases, yes. It's a great question. I know that there's a whole bunch of Amex kind of perks and benefits that we're going to be launching to you via American Express, and airport lounges is one that I'm not 100% sure on. I believe the answer is yes, but I will confirm that. And if the team here online from the Amex team knows, please send me a message internally and I'll clarify. So, yeah. All right. People still upset about the whole accredited investor thing. Look, I can't blame you. Again, it has nothing to do with Abra's status as a company. Abra's fine. Abra's doing great. I've been out here talking about risk management forever. This is a legal issue, and you can take it up with your own counsel. I'm sorry, not counsel, but your own congressperson. All right. Catherine says you should have people list their Twitter handle and randomly give away swag. That's actually not a bad idea. Catherine, thanks for that. I'm going to bring that up to the marketing team here, and maybe we'll do that. I don't even know how much swag we keep in storage here. We may have to order some to give away to all you people. So let's save that for another week. Let me find out how we might even be able to do that. But I actually like that idea a lot. So kudos to Catherine, everyone, for suggesting it. So I'll give Catherine another shout out here. She says, I want to be an accredited investor, but don't feel that I should have to supply my personal financial info. Catherine, I hear you. I totally get it. And so I actually completely agree with you. What else can I say? And so, the vast majority of our accredited clients have already gone through the process. Many of them don't like it. The bottom line is this part of why we wanted to become a bank, because as a bank, you become a regulated entity that has to do disclosures, that has oversight. So if you're being forced to collect this information from third parties, which I don't want to see, well, not me, because I don't look at your personal financials anyway, but I don't want our compliance team to have to look at your personal financials. I have no interest in that, but we have to follow the rules, okay? But at least if those are the rules, if you become a bank, you know that the regulators are watching how you do that, if that makes sense. And so I would rather be in that position if those rules aren't going to go away, which I don't think they're going to go away anytime soon. So hopefully that makes sense. All right. Let's see. With market orders, if crypto deposit addresses change, will I be notified? Want to make sure it doesn't change while expecting a pending Bitcoin deposit. So JK, great question. You should always go to the app and get a new deposit address every single time you're making a deposit, certainly for the next few weeks, just to be safe. Okay. And if you do it that way, you should be fine. And crypto deposit addresses will change when you're upgraded. Okay. And so if you don't do it that way, you do run the risk. You always run the risk if you don't get an updated address of sending crypto to the wrong place. So the first thing you should do when you're depositing is you should always go to the app, always go to deposit, click on the crypto you want, and copy the address immediately and use just that address. All right. So that's a great question. Let's see. Somebody says, I love the fact that you just block chatters in here. Actually, I don't block anyone. So I'm totally fine with all comers. I can take it so you all can bring it. If anybody spews any kind of foul language or hate or berates anyone else, the team will block you, but I'm too busy. I'm personally too busy to be blocking people. So let's see. So people asking about accredited status again. So Ralph, yes, we did talk about the card. You can go back and in a few minutes after the end of the show and see the comments there. We are going to do a show with Julian from the Miami Art Festival in early December. So looking forward to that. I was catching up with Julian early this week, and he's going to be joining us on Money Talks from Miami. So we're looking forward to seeing what he has to say there. I think they've been working on some NFT stuff that I haven't, well, I've heard, I haven't totally seen and gotten clarification on everything they're doing, but I have heard that they're doing some interesting stuff for you guys, and I can't wait to see it and get all the details myself. So we'll hear more about that soon. Wow, it's almost an hour already. This morning always flies by. All right, so let's see, how are we doing on Ethereum? So yeah, so Ethereum is way off the highs. It's still up 5.5%. So if you're, if you would just happen to be getting out of bed and you looked at the chart, and you said, oh, Ethereum's up 5.5% in the day. That's awesome. But what you need to realize is that it was up significantly more than that a couple of hours ago. It was up. It was actually approaching 1680, and now it's back down to 1620. So that's a big 4% drop, meaning Ethereum was up almost 10% for the day before coming down to where it's at now. Will Abra continue to use Plaid when Abra becomes a bank? So Rita, all Plaid does for us is it allows us to connect easily to your existing bank to allow you to ACH funds into your Abra account and convert them to stable coins. And that service works fine. It supports thousands of banks. I don't see why we wouldn't continue to support that for US customers. Again, that's a US specific question. By the way, I'm going to actually start writing some more blogs on some of our international support. We have Faster Pay support in the UK. We have Interact support in Canada. We have Support Pay in Germany and some of the other Central European countries. We have SEPA support throughout Europe. We have a bunch of payment types in Australia live. Literally all over the world, we have unique payment types. So regardless of the country you're watching from, we probably have a local deposit type supported for banks in your country now. Our team has done a phenomenal job over the last couple of years in integrating banking systems from all over the world. All right. So somebody says, if I'm not an accredited investor, but have been grandfathered in to Abra staking, how long do I foresee myself and others of the same status being able to remain staked into the future? So I think the question is, I'm able to keep my deposits in Abra Boost, but I can't add more funds. Will I be able to keep my funds in Abra Boost for the time being? We have no plan to turn that off. So your funds should be perfectly fine in Abra Boost. Just saw this last message from Ferdinand. Ferdinand, I gave a CPerks update earlier in the segment, so you can rewind and watch that. All right, folks, it is going on 10 a.m. here in California, and we've got a company to run, so we're going to call it there. Thanks again for all of the questions. Yes, Patrick, Litecoin is having a great week. I think it got some bullish news coming out of the Litecoin Summit, and I believe, and having another fantastic day. I should actually look at Litecoin before we call it a day. Wow, it is having quite a run. Let's bring that up. I wasn't planning to do that, but somebody brought it up. So kudos to let's see, who was it? Oh, Patrick. Kudos to Patrick for bringing it up. So where is Litecoin right now? So Litecoin is at $67 up. Now last week was that October 29th or whatever. Wow, what a run. So it was at $53, $54 up to 67. So 20% plus run, not bad. So clearly bullish sentiment coming out of the Litecoin Summit. So enough of that. All right, guys. Let me know if you like and enjoy this content. I'm not a professional broadcaster. We do the best we can on these, and we want to bring you the news as we see it. And we enjoy doing it, but it is a fair amount of work. So the more feedback we get, the easier it is to improve. Smash that like button, click subscribe, share the podcast with your friends if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Google Podcasts. And in the meantime, we will see you next week on Money Talks. Take care, everyone.